Question 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Our film is a hybrid film, a thriller and a comedy mixed together. There are many films out there that have done this before. An example of this is the Scary Movie series. They were including comedy as well as basing the film on a thriller. Though our film was slightly comical, we also used Charles Derry's thriller technique, which consists of a crime, a protagonist, and an antagonist. We followed this quite well. During the post-production of creating and editing our film, we used high-end editing programs including Sony Vegas Pro and Final Cut, two of the best and the most popular video editing programs around. Also, for editing certain clips, we used Adobe After Effects and Adobe Photoshop. These two are the best programs known for editing small clips. Because our film is quite a modern film, we had to use editing to make it more interesting for the audience and to keep the pace fairly fast. This is why we included the jump cuts. We used two jump cut clips in our film, which both worked very effectively as we added sound effects. We got the idea of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and Shaun of the Dead. Another example of a modern technique in our film was the flashback scene when he wakes up. We used an instrumental, non-copyright track that had a good beat to it, whilst quickening the pace of the pictures and increasing the levels as it went on. The whoosh sound effects added to the effectiveness of the scene as it made it look more like a flashback. Also, we used After Effects to create the zoom effect when our main character looks at the TV screen, to the transition of the TV being far away, then closer, then very close. That was with a plugin called Twitch. It brightens and blurs a clip for a few frames and then goes back to normal. It almost seems like a tremor effect.
How does your media product represent particular social groups? I feel that our product represents the young, teenage, adolescent social group to be a fun-loving yet also very unsafe and incautious group. I feel that our product does this because it gives a clear view of who it is trying to represent and puts them in quite a stereotypical teenage situation, the night after a party. I feel that the flashback technique that was used to replicate our character's memory is a very key part in our film, as it also gives the audience a clear view of what our character is into, his likes and dislikes. This scene shows him at a party drinking alcohol and having a good time. Although this may come with some negative connotations, I feel that it puts our character in quite a good light because all he's doing is having fun and not trying to harm anyone else. Our product represents the lifestyle of young teenagers so well and accurately because Michael and I are currently living it. Whilst we are brainstorming ideas to put into our coursework, we talk between each other about what audience we should target and why. Our conclusion was that we should target young teenagers around our age because we would know exactly what is real and what is not. It would be useless for us to attempt at targeting the elderly, as we would be clueless as to what they like or dislike. We needed to make a film that appealed to us if we were to succeed in hitting this target audience, and that makes life a whole lot easier.
Question 3. What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why? Our target audience range from teenagers to young adults, so the kind of media institution would be one who would try to reel in the young generation. Also, our film is quite a comical thriller, so it would be one who normally shows off funny or entertaining films. Again, the Scary Movie series would come into this, as we would fall into the same category as them, a comical thriller. The media institution that I think would distribute our film would be Dimension Films. We chose this media institution because they have presented a lot of thriller/horror films, such as Piranha 3D and Devil's Knot, both thrillers and horrors, as well as comedy films like Jay and Silent Bob and The Brothers Grimm, both comedies. Dimension Films has released many other films according to the thriller and comedy genre, which also fits in with ours. Another media institution that could distribute our product would be Brad Gray Films. Looking into them, they haven't distributed many films, so this could work as we will be a small-time group. This would increase the chances of them accepting our film. The films they have distributed are a range of comedy hybrids which our film falls into as well.
Question numberos cap. I don't know. Anyway, who would be the audience for your media project? The audience for our project would be the youthful teenagers of the UK, as I feel that we represented them in our film very well. I feel we represent them so well because our film contains activities that they often take part in, and the fact that someone can relate to a film or activity means that they will enjoy it more and be more attracted to it rather than something that is irrelevant to their life and they cannot relate to it at all. As we now had a target market for our work, we could aim at creating a film that would appeal to them. We did this in many ways, and one of them was our mise-en-scene whilst filming. Our set was littered with iconic red cups and currently popular alcoholic beverages. We really focused in on these 2 points at the beginning of the film because we felt that if we were going to draw in our audience, it would need to be earlier in the film.
Question 5. How did you attract/address your audience? The film itself attracts the audience a great deal as we constructed the film to fit 2 different genres. This made it a hybrid film that isn't seen a lot in media classes. But from the reviews of our classmates, we managed to pull off a comical thriller effect, which suggests that it would have the same positive effect on the audience. Examples of the comedy scenes would be the time where our main character wakes up and stands up. We get a shot of the floor, which is covered in glass bottles and cans, which suggests the party was filled with drinks. But we over-exaggerated the amount of bottles on the floor to make it more comical. Other examples, where we tried to include comedy, would be when the antagonist continuously beats up the body on the floor. We exaggerated the amount of hits and shots on this part, as he kicks and then punches him in the crotch. Most people would find this comical. He then shoots the body 4 times. We feel this reaches our audience because it's quite humorous. This film would reach out to teenagers and young adults more than anyone else, as we have young actors. The audience may be able to relate to the characters, as one is a youthful extrovert partygoer and the other is a murderer, who may come off as cool for carrying a firearm. We held this small meeting in the meeting room, showcasing our initial story and ideas.
What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product? I've learnt a lot about technologies from this product, things ranging from how to create muzzle flashes to utilising programs such as Adobe After Effects, Adobe Photoshop CS5.5 and Sony Vegas Pro. I learned some simple yet effective things from Sony Vegas, how to effectively cut and adjust similar clips into one long piece of footage, plus how to synchronise sounds and other small effects into the footage. Secondly, I learned some vital skills while I was trying to create the muzzle flare on the gun using Photoshop, and this is what I'd like to move on to now. The first stop in creating these gunshots was to take 2 freeze frames and transfer them from Vegas into Photoshop. I then had to download the light coming from the muzzle and a sound that I felt fitting. I then had to adjust the image brightness and apply the flare into the fitting position. I utilised the pen tool and brightness settings to make it look convincing. I did the same on the second frame, however I had to make everything look a little bit dimmer just to create the flaring effect. I then had to transfer these images back into Sony Vegas and put the fitting sound over the top. Overall, we feel that our knowledge of these technologies is now quite fluent compared to before this task when our skills were describable as competent. We are very happy with the progress that has been made throughout this process and look forward to using them in our future work or any approaching products that we may have.
Question 7. Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have learned in the progression from it to the full product? Looking back to our preliminary task and comparing it to our film, you would spot the difference in techniques instantly. You can see that we looked into using lighting more, which the preliminary task lacked. This is because at first we didn't think the lighting would affect the film that much. Also, the change in pace of editing was faster in our new film, as we used quick cuts to show a more modern film effect. Freeze frames were used in the preliminary task, but only as an introduction to the characters. The use of After Effects really made our film stand out, as the editing and the post-production was on a whole new level compared to our initial film. An example of this is at the scene where the antagonist has a gun in his hand and is beating up the man on the floor. The times where he shoots the man on the floor were done using Photoshop. We would freeze frame of the time when he looked like he shot the man, and then we would add a muzzle flare in front of the gun to make it look like he actually shot him. We also took into account the lighting that the muzzle flare would make, so we brightened some parts of the man and the antagonist's bodies to make it look more realistic. The frame after this one, we would decrease the opacity of the muzzle flare and make it look like it was fading away, and also darken the body parts that were affected by the light caused by the muzzle flare on the first frame. So from then to now, I think we have learned how to use programs and lighting more efficiently, as well as camera work techniques.